Good morning, fellow site members and guests. This is Sandra Masters, and I'm just so excited to have Tom Coleman with us today. And I'll introduce him and turn things over to him in just a few moments. But for you early birds who are here on time, I do just want to make you aware of a couple of upcoming webinars. On November 17th, we have LinkedIn for Trainers with Greg Johnson from IEA, and on December 8th, considerations in becoming a provider for adjuster CE with Jordana Robinson from Great American Insurance Group. And I see that Jordana is with us today, so I'm very happy that you're here with us. All right, so we hope that you're going to plan to join us in Spokane, Washington, June 24th through the 26th of 2018. That actually is my favorite city. I've traveled all over this great United States, and I just love Spokane, Washington. So check it out. And I know registration is usually open by the end of the year, but get your budgets in now so that you can join us for the site conference. So for those of you who are brand new to site webinars, we never assume that you know how to use the GoToWebinar tools. So just real quickly, if you're joining on a PC, you'll probably see an orange arrow on the right-hand side of your screen that opens and closes the control panel. And I usually tell people to uncheck the auto hide control panel so it stays open, and then you can enter your questions. And if you're having trouble with the audio and you might be on mic and speakers using VoIP, you can easily switch to the telephone by clicking the radio button and then dialing the telephone number, access code, and that 2-digit PIN. You want to put that in. And then if you wanted to be unmuted during the session, we can do that. And then use the question box to introduce yourself now. So hi, everyone. Tell us where you're calling in from. I'm in Arizona. There's also a little raise hand button too on your control panel if you want to get our attention, or we might do a quick poll. And then most importantly, Tom has provided a great handout with a whole listing of resources in the handout section of the control panel. All you have to do is click on the file and it will download in a browser window, and then you can download it onto your laptop. All right, so Kimberly from New Jersey, welcome. And hi, Kate from Basking Ridge also. All right, in New Jersey. Hi, Suma in Wisconsin. So keep on introducing yourself while I finish up these announcements. One final thing, if you're a guest here today, welcome, and we're excited that you're here. We want you to consider ways for you to get involved with the site, whether it's by joining as a site member, or if you're already a member, finding ways to grow more with site by getting involved. Site has unlimited benefits of membership, and as you can see on the screen, we'd love for you to get connected today. Site's a great place to network with people in similar roles as yours, and professional networking has a way of becoming a great tool when you least expect it. So the relationships you sow today may yield success in the future. So visit insurancetrainers.org. So welcome Kurt from Northbrook, Illinois. Excellent. So if you're just joining us, you're welcome to introduce yourself into the chat area. All right, without any further delay, I'm so excited to welcome back to Site. He's been a great friend of Site and has presented at our site conference before and has presented webinars. Tom Coleman, if you don't know about the Rapid eLearning blog, you really need to become a subscriber to that. If you want to get better at e-learning, you definitely want to subscribe to that. But he's a chief learning architect at Articulate Global Inc. and so many great things happening there. Tom, welcome back to Site.
Thank you. I think it'll be all downhill after that introduction.
Well, why don't we start off with a poll then? Get them warmed up.
All right.
Okay, great. Well, I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. So all you have to do is click on the screen. Do you have any experience creating mobile responsive e-learning? Yes or no? And these are going to be really, really quick. So last chance to weigh in, just click yes or no. All right, so we'll close that and share the results. It looks like 40% yes, 60% no. All right, so let's try one more simple question here. This one is, have you ever completed an e-learning course on your mobile device? Yes or no? All right, last chance to weigh in. I'll close the poll, share the results. It looks like 43% of you have completed a course on your mobile device, an e-learning course. So great. Thank you so much, Tom, for indulging me with that little poll series there.
All right. Well, that's always good to know. We were talking about that earlier, is that, I always wonder, obviously we're on the authoring side of things, so, we're selling tools, but I always wonder how many people actually do real mobile development, and then how many people actually take courses. That's pretty neat. And I wonder, I imagine being in the insurance industry is a little bit different too, because you do have a pretty broad range of client base and all of that.
Oh, yes.
All right, so what I wanted to do today was talk about Articulate Rise. I think I've done a couple things on Storyline in the past. That's always been pretty popular. And it's not a sales session, so it's just not, I'm not here to sell the tool. I'm really just here to show you how it works. We've been doing a lot of workshops around the country, and I kind of like to do these community-based workshops where it's just, let's get a bunch of Articulate users together and let's look at the tools and kind of talk about production tips and all of that. And this year I didn't really put too many Rise sessions in there just because it's a relatively new tool. So I was figuring, well, the transition to getting to the new products, and then it's a relatively easy to use tool. So I didn't really plan a lot of Rise content in the workshops, and to my surprise, a lot of people are asking about Rise, more so than probably some of the other stuff we were planning on. So we do have a lot of people asking about it. It is kind of a neat tool to look at. I was thinking, I've been writing the Rapid eLearning blog for about 10 years now, and so I've been working on this blog post about, a lot of people ask me, hey Tom, where's the Rapid part of Rapid eLearning? Which is a good question, right? Because years ago, you had to be a programmer to build courses, or you had to hire that, and so most training people weren't really in that side of the industry. And so it was an all or nothing deal. If you didn't have the resources, then you weren't building any type of e-learning. And then these PowerPoint to Flash products came out. So it really empowered organizations. I think it kind of democratized it. So now the power to create courses was given to training teams. And so you didn't have to be a programmer to build courses, and you had access to these resources. And there were some constraints because you're working in PowerPoint. And then Storyline came out, and then the tools, have evolved over the last few years, and so people have shifted away from PowerPoint. But then when you're working in Storyline or other tools, they're relatively easy to use compared to having to learn how to program in Flash. However, they're becoming a little bit more complex as well, so you have to start making decisions about how you're going to use the tools. Like, for example, probably one of the most common types of interactions is the tab interaction. And you can build that quickly in Rise, for example, and you can build it relatively quickly in Storyline. But when you build it in Storyline, you have to determine, how do you want the screen to be laid out? What do you want the tabs to look like? How do you want the tabs to work? Do I click and show a layer? Things like that. So while it's easy to build, you have to make a lot of decisions in the process to build it. Where when you look at something like Rise, which we'll look at, it's a form-based tool, and you won't have to make all those decisions. And so kind of I would say the Rapid eLearning is kind of boomeranging back to Rapid eLearning, because if you've been in the industry for, say, at least 10 years or so, and you were working in the Flash world, the Rapid eLearning was, I could go into PowerPoint, I don't need to do programming, and I can do development. And then kind of shifted over to Storyline, where you have to start doing a little bit more. And now with Rise, you're kind of back to the Rapid part, where I'm willing to give up some things, but I want a faster production process. And so Rise kind of makes the Rapid part rapid again.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'll do is I'll kind of show how RISE works. We can talk a little about just generally, how tools, the differences in these tools. But I'll show you how RISE works, and then some of the one thing that's really cool is we actually we created, I think last week we released it, was a storyline block so that you can add storyline content to RISE. But let me show you a few things that people have built, and these links are in the handout. RISE is a form-based tool, so it's pretty straightforward, which you'll see when we look at the authoring part of it. So there are some constraints. Forms, it's like a Jello mold. If you have I don't know, like a crab-shaped Jello mold, you're going to pour your gelatin in there and have it set, and then you're going to get a crab. But you can't get other things, right? Because it is what it is, and so that's kind of how a form works. So with RISE, you have a bunch of forms, and then you can put your content in there, but the form's designed a certain way. So it speeds up your production, but the constraint is you're kind of working with that form. Where in Storyline, you have a free form environment. It's a blank slide, and you can add whatever you want to on there and make it look any way you want to. So you got more options for customizing, but you have to make those decisions and do the work. So there's pros and cons to both types of tools. So here's an example. This one I thought was pretty cool. This was in the community. One of our customers shared. It's they did some neat things in here, which you'll see. Generally RISE is really great for that kind of linear information-based content. A lot of compliance training. One of the neat things about RISE is that it's fully responsive, so it works really great on mobile devices, which you'll see. And you can look at any of these links on your mobile devices and see how they work, but we'll just look at this one. Now, it's really wide looking. I wouldn't normally look at it like this in my browser, but I'm showing the full screen, so you could make it look a little less wide on your own browsers. But a couple things they did in here that was really neat was they used the knowledge check. They kind of, instead of just making it content, they do kind of add some interactive elements where you got to stop and think, and then they used, I'll just click through it, I'm not reading this. So they used the knowledge check. This is one of the blocks, and you can get your feedback here. And so they kind of take you through these little mini scenarios before they give you your content, right? So we go through that. A couple other things they did that was really neat. I like the way there's like a branching feature. So they kind of use it again as a quick knowledge check, which is one of the things, I usually tell people at workshops. Vendors come up with features and they come up with names for the features or purpose for the feature, but it's the users who really kind of figure out how they want to use the feature. So I would say, like for example, in the old days of Quizmaker, it's a tool you use to create quizzes because it's called Quizmaker. But if you stepped away from the idea of it as a quizzing tool and you just saw it as a way to create multimedia content, Quizmaker had some pretty neat things in it, like you could insert a video and then you could insert content on top of the video. So it could be a way to augment videos and use the Quizmaker as a video player, and you could augment the videos and add additional content on top of the videos, like let's say the pop-up video type stuff, so you can add to the video. But you wouldn't see that if you just thought, well, it's a quizzing tool. So I like to tell people, just step away from the tools and just think of them as it's a means to create multimedia, and then what can you do? What types of multimedia can you create? So for example, when you build scenarios, I always have what I call the 3C model, because it's just an easy way. I'm probably a simpleton, so I'm really kind of simple about things and oversimplify it maybe. But I like to always, everything's always in 3s or 5s. So the 3 C's is the easy way for me to talk about building scenarios. So the first C is I want to challenge the learner. I want to give them something to think about. What do you want to do? You have to make a decision. And then, you're building a course, so you have to give them choices. So that's the second C. So how do I structure the choices? And then the third C is what's the consequence of the choice that they make? So when you're building scenarios, you can keep it really simple. It's like, here's the situation, you need to make a decision, and here's immediate feedback. So that's your 3 C's, right? Your challenge, your choice, your consequence. Or, you can make it more complex, so the consequence could be another challenge, and you can compound those 3 C's to create pretty complex scenarios. When I'm looking at the tools, though, I'm going to look at, okay, how can I interact with the screen and reveal information? So this is why I think it's kind of neat about this. This feature right here, this one on the bottom, so you have 2 blocks, which you'll see when we look at the authoring, but you kind of have 2 blocks in this lesson. So one block, this is an image and text block, so the design is to have a picture and text, right? But they use as a way to kind of introduce a scenario, so they have a character, and then they have the text. And then this block down here, this is normally like a branching type block, so the idea is that they can click and go to another slide. But they saw that clicking is a means to provide feedback or to do something, right? So in this case, it's like a simple 3C. It's like, here's your challenge, right? You've got to make a decision, or they get you, in this case, they want you to reflect on something. And then so you click, and when I click, it's just taking me to another screen, but there's my consequence. So if you think about it that way, it's like when I'm looking at the tools that I use, what can I click on, and then what happens, or hover, or whatever types of interaction you want to add. But then it kind of lets you see the tools more as a multimedia tool and not as just the purpose for that particular feature. So then another element I'll just briefly mention is this is why being in a community of your learners is really important too, right? So if you're an e-learning developer, the Articulate, we really focus a lot on building out the Articulate community, because when you're with other practitioners or people who do the same thing, you learn kind of those best practices and tips and tricks. So, software vendors create tools, and the users figure out how they want to use the tools. And I think the advanced part of the develop, like if you're a Storyline developer, for example, you can learn to use the features, but the advanced Storyline developer isn't advanced because they know JavaScript and those things, and that they have advanced skills. But the advanced Storyline developer is a person who knows how to take the features and make them do what they want them to do. So they learn to compound those features, to combine features or use features in different ways. So it's really understanding and being fluent with the feature set that you have with the tools that you're using. So anyway, this is a good example of some stuff. You can look through it. They do some pretty neat things in how they structure. You can kind of see they have this consistent kind of stop and think approach, and a little simple interaction here. These are in there. These are the structure in RISE is that you have a series of lessons, and that kind of becomes your outline, as you see here. And then you build out your lessons, and we'll look at the authoring. Here's another little, they use the branching feature again. And then here's an interesting thing, because when you think about, this is an image gallery, but you can see they kind of use the image gallery. So the image that they use, they have their content in the image. So then you can see that they go through this little conversation using the image gallery. So another creative way to use that feature set. So it's not just showing pictures, but they're actually putting the text and the conversation on the picture, so you're able to kind of go through this in a linear fashion. So you can look at those. This one's kind of neat. Trina did this one. She works in our community. Where's it at here? She put the link, but I guess I can just click on the image here. And she built this out, and it's like a little conflict resolution, little kind of scenario that you go through. So you can look at, again, click and reveal type interactions, right? And then here she locked it down, so you can see some of the features in there, and then continue. And then you can go through those. This one's kind of neat. This one from MindGym. You could disregard that first link. It looks like they have an issue on the link, so if you might run into like a security thing, but disregard that first link on the PDF for this one. But what's neat about this guy he's I think the CEO of this company, MindGym. I don't really know much about MindGym, but he was presenting at, might have been at Learning Solutions, or maybe it was DevLearn. I think it was Learning Solutions in Orlando. And what was cool was he did his presentation, and then they gave out a link, and you could sign up on the link and get his presentation notes. So they actually did their presentation notes in Rise. So the first examples, these are like kind of probably more traditional type course structures, training, and then this is just kind of a way for him to put his information together. They do a good job working the brand into that. So you can see, the green is kind of key to their branding. These are the little flashcard interactions, but they do a good job going through here. So if you're thinking about how to work your brand into using Rise, if you're using that, you can see how they did that. These little click and reveal interactions again. You can go through that. Let's look at Rise now, the authoring, and then we'll take I'll break it about what's 10:21 my time. So let's say we'll break in about 15 minutes. I can answer some questions, and then we can move on. So Rise is, if you're not familiar with it at all, Articulate is the company, right? So we have Articulate, and then within Articulate we've got different tools. So in the past we always had these perpetual license tools. So for example, and we still have those. So you could buy Storyline 3, I think is our latest version now. So you can buy Storyline 3, and then that's a perpetual license, and so you have that, and you can build as many courses and do whatever you want to with that. And then when Storyline 4 comes out, then you can upgrade to Storyline 4. We switched to Articulate 360, or added Articulate 360, which is a suite of tools. So we basically give you every tool that we have. So you get everything, so it gives you the freedom to do whatever. So if you have PowerPoint, you want to use Studio, you can use Studio. But for the most part, people are using Storyline or Rise, and then we have these other tools. So within the 360 suite, we've got Storyline 360, which has some features that Storyline 3 doesn't have, because with Storyline 360, because it's a subscription, Articulate 360 is subscription based. As we build a feature, we can release it to those who are subscribers. With a perpetual license, what happens is you have to kind of build up a number of features, and then you sell it as a new version, right? So with the perpetual license, so from Storyline 3 to 4, all the new features we would add through 360, the perpetual users would get. So with the subscription, you get Rise, which we'll look at. We have a product called Review, and that Rise, you can publish your courses to Review. What Review allows you to do is Review allows you to upload your course, send it to your subject matter experts. They can review it and give you feedback. So we'll look at how that works with Rise, so you can see how that works. We have Content Library. Now, Content Library on the Studio, on the PowerPoint side, and the Storyline side, you get a lot of templates and characters and all of that. With Rise, there's some Content Library integration. There'll be some more coming up. We've got a pretty cool scenario feature and some other things that you'll see probably in the next few months or so. And you'll see more integration with Content Library. But for right now, most of Content Library is going to be on the Storyline Studio side. And then Articulate Live, I manage that, and we do webinars and training and whatever to help people get to learn the tools. So pretty informal type sessions, and we show you how to use the tools. So let's look at Rise. So you'd click into Rise. The other way you can get into Rise, so right now I'm logged in, you can see, and then I've got logged into it's 360 articulate.com. If you have the Articulate installed, you'll also have this app in your desktop tray, and it would look like this. Now I have extra stuff because I've got these development elements too, but you would see all the different tools, and then so you have your desktop tools, and then you also down here you'll see Rise. So you can actually click the web-based tools and launch those from the app as well. But since we're in the browser, we'll just access it from the browser. So I'm going to click on Rise, and that's going to take us inside of Rise. What you have here is normally you would just have a demo course. So we add one demo course, which is this health and wellness demo. So you can kind of get an overview of what, kind of a finished course. You can see some of the stuff in there. And then we have this tutorial. I have some other stuff in here. You can create folders, right, and start to separate it. Right now we're just looking at all courses. So for example, if I want to look at my workshop folder, I can just see courses, tied to unique things or products or customers or however you want to do that and organize those. Then building a course is pretty straightforward. So we're just going to go ahead and build something so you can see how it works. So I'm just going to click the new course. Or actually, let's look at a demo course here. We'll just look at the wellness one since that's one people get to see. When you're in a course that's finished, essentially you have your title, all this stuff here. The structure of Rise is you have these lessons and you kind of compile these lessons to create your content. So we've got a bunch of different lessons in here. Up here, you'll see some features. So settings, inside of settings, you can change the themes and get some theme colorization and all of those things. Some navigation controls. There are labels within there. You may want to change the labels. For example, you can change the language. You can also change the labels. Like one of the labels I always change is the process interaction, because by default I think it says step 1, step 2, because it's kind of set up to be in a linear process, right? So I'm going to insert a process interaction. But I was thinking, well, I might want to use the way the process interaction works, but they're not lessons or steps. So I might just want to say 1 of 2 or 1 of 10 rather than step 1, because they may not be linear steps, or just 10 things I want to show you. So I went in here, and I think on the process interaction, you could see I took out the label. So normally it would say step of whatever, but I took out the label. So you can customize the labels. And then let's see, back up here in the settings. You can also have collaborator. So with the Articulate 360, if you have a Teams account, so a lot of companies do that. They'll buy 10 licenses or 5 licenses or whatever, and then they can collaborate with each other. And so I could work on a course together, and that's what collaboration is, right? So let's go ahead. And then on the review side, if I have a course, I could send that. I can publish that and review. And we'll do something. We'll build something and publish it so you can see how that works. And I'll share the link, and then you can add your feedback, and we can see how that stuff works. And then when you finish a course, you go to export, and with export, you would choose, if you want to have it on LMS, you have your options here, or you can just do it for web only, so that you can just put it on a website, and then you've got, the standard type of tracking in there. So that's kind of what you get. So let's preview this. I'm going to preview the course. And you can see right now I'm in what that we would call the desktop preview. And again, my screen's really wide, so normally I would just scrunch up the browser, so it's not, I don't have all this white space here. But you can see I can go through the course, right? So we'll click on Start Course here, and then I've got my outline. One thing you'll notice is over here you've got a progress meter, right? So it's kind of indicating your progress through the course. And then right next to the lessons, I don't know if you can see that, but right next to the lessons, you have these little circles, and these circles kind of indicate progress through a lesson. So for example, this particular lesson is a labeled graphic interaction. So the idea is you have an image and you have interactive labels on them. So I can click and you can see, I can navigate through it this way, right? And so there's text on them, some of them. Here's one with a picture and text. I can zoom in if I needed to on that picture. Oops, I closed it out. Here's one with video, so you can see you can add different types of media, and then I think there's one in here with audio in here as well. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. I thought I had an audio one, but I didn't. But we'll look at how that works, and then you can see it also works on the mobile devices. And again, Rise is fully responsive, so this is what's cool is you don't have to do the programming part. We kind of do that for you with Rise. Because we control the form and all that, we can change up how that works in the devices. It's really nice for compliance type training, right? Because you can, if you're mobile, like if you're doing sales training or insurance policies and things, you want to send information. This is a timeline interaction here, so we can see what it looks like on the phone. You can see a little progress indicator. Normally you would be swiping on the phone, you don't have the scroll bar. And so you could see it's kind of showing your progress through the interaction, and you can see text and images, and here's one with some audio in it, and you can put videos and whatnot. and again, fully responds to the device that you have. Let's click on another one. Let's see what this is. This is the process interaction, right? So this says lesson 3 of 6. You can see how that looks like on a tablet where I've got more space. Go to a phone, and you can see it's going to reframe in the way the interaction works. It's going to be a little bit different. And I can go to the next lesson. Get the little hamburger menu, right? So I can access those. So pretty slick. And again, the lessons are just, you just create a lesson. So I'd add a lesson title. We'll actually do this here in a second. And then you can add your content. So let's build something. And let's just create a new course. I'm going to come up here, do new course. And I just add a title. We'll just say site demo. All right, I can put my author if I want to, and I've got some kind of generic text here in my browser. So let's just paste some text in here. So I got course description. Add a lesson. This how easy it is. Go to lesson 1. I'm going to say pre-built because I'll show you how the pre-built blocks work. Right, pre-built blocks or pre-built lessons. Right, so we'll just say pre-built. If I hit enter, it just creates the placeholder for me. We'll say lesson 2. We'll do custom blocks. Hit enter. Now, if I want to have sections, I can say section 1. If I hit shift enter, that creates a section, and I can just drag this here. Or, sometimes these webinar things interfere with the screen. Okay, so you can see here at section 1. Let's say I do section 2, enter. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. This is how you delete. Section 2, shift enter, and I've got this. And let's say we have a lesson. And I'll do this. Lesson 3 will be the storyline block. So I'll show you how you can add some of the interactive stuff on storyline. Okay, and we hit enter. So you can outline your content. So I would say the production tip would be kind of know what you want to build and also become familiar with the tools so you know what types of lessons and stuff are out there. So we're going to look at lesson 1. It's going to be a pre-built lesson, so we'll add content. And basically you have this up here, you have these pre-built lessons, and they're designed, they kind of have a pre-built structure to them. For example, we saw the labeled graphics. I just added, we'll actually just click on that. We'll add a labeled graphic. What you can see is I've got a place here. I've got my image. I can edit that, and I can upload a new image if I have one, right? Unless I'm doing training on hot air balloons. So I can upload an image. And then to add labels, the labels just kind of, you move them to the screen somewhere, right? And so we'll just add a label by just, you can see my little plus icon. And so when I add a label, it's going to give me the form, and then we'll just say, trees, and then I can add some text in here. Change the marker style. Maybe I want this to point, right? I want to point to the trees here. And then I can upload media. So if I had some pictures, we'll do the content library. This is a good example. You can see the integration with the content library. So if I had my own pictures, I could do that. But let's say I want to add some tree pictures and just do trees and hit enter. And you can see I can choose from photos or some illustrations. We'll do trees, and you can see a bunch of trees. So we'll just say, oh, we'll pick this one. So it's a little ivy on the trees. So, and I can record audio. If I record audio, just hit recording. We'll just insert some real quick. All right, so we'll stop the recording. So this that we just built has a picture and it has some audio in there, and then these are the ones who are already kind of placeholders. So if we preview this, you can see the authoring is really simple. It's a form. You add your content, and we preview this, and then I can see what it looks like. So I've got my audio here. I can play that, and I've got my picture and stuff, and you can see that again how it works on the device. Now, because on the smartphone, you can see that the label's different, right? Because if I'm on a larger screen, I can actually create a label, that's distinct because I have more screen space. But on the smartphone, I'm not going to have that, so the label actually opens up as full screen, and then I can close it, and I'm back onto my interaction. So that's the label graphic. That's a pre-built interaction. If we, we'll go to custom blocks here. If I go click here, you can see we've got a few different types of pre-built interactions. We're going to look at the blocks. Blocks are kind of nice because you can, well, not kind of nice, they are nice, but you can build really kind of any type of content that you want. So we just click on blocks and you get this little plus icon. You click on that, it's going to give you a list of the different types of blocks. So you can start to assemble your content, right? So most cases, you're probably going to need a heading with some text, or you can just add a heading. We'll add heading with the text block. And let's say we want some more text, so we got that. Now I could keep typing in the blocks. I don't have to add the text. I can just keep typing, but we'll just add a second text block. So this allows me to move it around if I want to. It's e-learning, so you need bullet points. So let's go ahead and add bullet points here, right? And then let's look at something else here. We can add pictures, right? So you can see how that works, get different types of pictures. We'll just add pictures here. And then if you want some interactive stuff, you can see you get different types of interactions. And we'll look at that in a second. Then you can insert storyline as well. So let's go ahead and preview what we just did. We didn't even do anything. We just added our placeholder content. We can preview it, and then you can see there's the structuring of the page. And then if you want to edit it, it's just a matter of clicking in here. So like I was saying, I've got this paragraph of text here. I don't need to add another text block. I can just hit enter and then, add additional text, right? So I don't need that. The advantage of having a block, if you want to do this, if I decide, I actually want this paragraph, I want to move this. So you've got your ability to move those and change their position, right? So if you know you're going to do that, having separate blocks works. Otherwise, you can just type into the block. That's something to think about from a production perspective, because if you have all these individual blocks, then you got to click into the block to make your edits versus just clicking in here. So I can copy and paste from Word and drop it in here versus having to create a separate block for every paragraph. And you can see you have some text editing inside there as well when you copy that. Let's say you want to change the color, or font size, right? You can make it all say 13 point or whatever. So you can do some edits there. One thing you'll notice is on the side of the block, you'll always have a couple things. So one is, in this case, let's do one where we can actually see the text here. So this one here, if I click on it, it gives me the option to switch to different type of text block, right? So let's say I've added the text here, but I actually want to make it a statement. So I can click on that and it changes that to the statement block. Now, if I don't want the text to be that big, I can click on here and then I can scale it down a little bit as well. So you can see how you can do that. So whatever block you select, there's types of blocks that it corresponds to. You can make some changes. And then you have your edits, and it depends on the block. Normally you can have your content. So I can type in here, or I can type into this block and this box here and add my content. And then you have your settings. In this case, it's pretty simple because it's a text block. So I'm always going to have my padding, and the padding is going to be the upper part and the lower part. So we'll look at that here with the bullet points because this makes sense. And then you can change the background color. So like, let's say I wanted this block to really stand out. I can come in here and maybe we'll make it really exaggerate. We'll do the screen. So you can see how I can then, create some more contrast and maybe create sections or different things that I want to do. I'm going to change that to something a little softer so I don't have to look at that the whole time. All right, we'll do that. And then the padding, I'll show you, this is a good example where you might want to work with the padding. Let's just change this, move this up to 22. All right, so let's say I've got this and I want, there's a default padding that's 30 pixels between these, but let's say I want to pull them together and make them look like they really belong together, right? So if I come into here, I might want to change the bottom padding. I'm going to choose padding, and I might change the bottom padding. I'll just exaggerate it. We'll say no padding. And then I can come over here on this block, and I can change the top padding. Again, we'll exaggerate it to no padding, and you can see how it pulls it closer together. So there may, now this isn't what I would do, but it kind of shows you have a little bit more control. So you can create some separation. Let's say I want to create a really big gap between these here. I can edit this, and let's say on the bottom padding here, I actually want this to be, 100 pixels. You could see it separates that, and then I can come over here and change this top padding to 100 pixels, and it creates a lot bigger gap, right? So you have a little bit more control over the white space. So you can create that separation. It's like, I don't want you to think this content belongs to this content. So that's where working with the padding helps you do that. There's some other things you can do too as well. Like, for example, you may want to put in between here, you may want to put a divider. So you got different types of dividers. So maybe you have a spacer, or you can just have a line divider, for example, right? It's pretty faint on my screen. Or if you want to have it numbered, right, you can do number divider and do sections. And so there's all sorts of things. I'll show you how this continue thing works in a second. So let's delete this stuff I just added, and we'll look at that continue. So we're going to delete these dividers here. So you just click on delete, and let's delete this picture. And let's say this actually looked good. We're going to change it to a different type of, we're going to do checkbox list, right? This is going to annoy me, so I'm actually going to change the padding up here. Let's just, we'll do back to 30. Okay. So if you have a checkbox, I want you to verify. This is a common thing in course. I want you to read through this, and let's say instead of all these checks, I'm going to delete this, right? Actually, I can come in here and edit these. You can see how this works. I can click and delete these things. So, so I want this here, and I want to put in here, I affirm or agree to, this info and security, blah, 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 right? Oops, I didn't want to add an item. Now, we've got this here. So before I give you more information, right, so maybe underneath that I've got a, we'll just say, we'll add an interaction, accordion interaction. We've got flashcards, right? Before I give you this information, maybe there's a video or something, so we can insert a video. Would just be multimedia, and then we'll insert a video block, right? So it's all kind of default stuff. Before you even get access to that, I want you to affirm this. So we can add this divider. So we can do a divider here. We're going to do the continue button. And what the continue button does by default, it kind of hides the content. And then I click continue, and then it shows that. So it's kind of a nice way to do progressive revelation or progressive reveal of content. But let's say I need you to do something. So in this case, you can actually click into this, right? So I'm going to say on this continue button, I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to say, or is that on the content, I'm going to say, you need to complete the block above, and you can, you can change the text here, right? And I can say, please affirm the information, blah, blah, blah. And now when I preview this, the continue button's locked until I affirm this, and then I can continue. So a lot of people are doing that.
Wow, that's
type
cool.
of stuff. But you can see how easy it is to do the authoring in this. I mean, it's basically you select the type of block that you want, and then you add your content. So I would say from a production perspective, it's really become familiar with the different types of blocks. And it's you got text and statement. Text, statement, quote. These are all kind of the same. List blocks from bullet points. You have different types of images, and then you have other multimedia, and then you have the interactive. And once you start working with these, you kind of become familiar with the different types of. You have pre-built interactions, and then you also have the storyline. So you can build all sorts of interactive content in Storyline and bring that in. We'll look at that here. So I can answer a few questions, and then we'll look at the Storyline thing. One last thing is, let's say you've built everything. Let's say we wanted to review this. Let's actually do that, and then I'll answer questions. So I want to share this with you, and I want to get your feedback. So I can share the link, and I hit share, I get a link here. You can take it, set a password. I could share it with collaborators, right? If I had to articulate the Teams account, I could send this link to you, but then you would just see the course. But I'm actually going to publish this to review, and we'll look at how review works. You can add. So we'll do site demo, and we'll hit publish, and then we'll publish it, and then I'll let you post the link in here. So now it's going to be in review. So here's the course. So what I'm going to do is I want to get feedback. So I'm going to take this link and allow anybody to comment. So I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to paste this in the chat. Let me make sure I can't paste to all. So I think Sandra's going to have to paste it. So I'll paste it in the chat.
Yep, there you go.
Oh, but I think only you see it.
I gotcha. So let me go ahead and paste it here. Paste. There you go.
So if you start adding comments, we'll see it populate here in real time. So go ahead and
that's so cool. Okay.
So click on the different lessons and just add some comments, and we'll see how that works.
Let's see here.
And then I can answer some questions.
All right.
All right, so see, I can see Sandra here posted in there. So click in some of the other lessons too, and then we'll see how the comments are kind of spread throughout.
Site demo, lesson 1, pre-built. There's a nice picture, balloon. Let's see.
All right, so you can see I'm starting to see here. If I come into review, I can say, oh, there's some comments, things for me to look at. Now, if I'm looking at it at the screen basis, I could see what you commented on in a particular screen. If I come into the lesson, you'll see that the comments are changing based on that lesson that I'm in. If I come in here, I should be able to see what you commented on. So if you commented on the Ivy, for example, when we look at the feedback, I'll see that. So you can see how the comments work. Now, what I would normally do is, sometimes these courses, you can have 30, 40 different screens, right? So I would just come into feedback, and then I can see here, so you can see where you were at when you commented. I can see what you were, commenting on. And then I can go in here, and so it's easier at this point to, I can add feedback, right? And then I can just hit enter. I can, use these emoticons. People seem to like all this type of stuff, right? You can do that. It's, if you have all these young people working in your company, you got to use emoticons. So you could do that. So you can see I can attach things. I can bring other people into that. You could see, in this case, Kimberly made a comment, so she's going to be notified that I'm giving her feedback, or we're having this conversation about that. And then when I'm done with that, I can just go, okay, I'm going to resolve this. So go in here, walk through this, resolve them, and then I can quickly manage that relationship with my customer or whoever I need to manage, or whoever needs to do that, right? And then you'd have different versions as I work with that. So if I make changes and upload it, then I'd always see the most current version, but I can go back to previous versions. So that's the way review works. So any questions? And then I'll show you the final thing. I'll show you the storyline, because storyline is pretty simple. You're going to build it in storyline and then drop it into Rise. So that's pretty straightforward, but I'll hold that for the last wow thing. No.
Yeah, that's great. So raise your hand if you'd like to be unmuted to ask a question, or use the question box. One thing I wanted to confirm with that review, you said you can attach files to your comments?
Yeah, let's look at that.
So if I had a piece of media that I thought should be included, I can include that in my review comment.
Yeah, let's see here. Let me show all resolved comments. So I guess I resolved these. Let me edit this. So what happens when you click in there? What are you seeing when you click in the comment? I can attach.
Okay, let me do this.
I'll just attach
comment. Oh yeah, there is an attachment button. Yeah. So then it just, you can put any file, just like if you were to attach to an email.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we're doing some other stuff with review, so you'll start to see these other features and stuff come out as well. This is pretty slick. You know, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
about how I used to have to manage courses. And
Yeah.
this comes, if you're working with Storyline, you get reviews part of that as well. So it works really great with Storyline too.
That's awesome. I don't see any raised hands. I mean, this must be, okay, here we go, Suma. Is there a file size limit to the media file upload?
There isn't. You know, I would say if it's this is always the consideration when you do any e-learning. If you know the file is big and it takes a long time to upload it, I would anticipate your end users going to have a hard time downloading. And if you're building in Rise, most likely, you know, most people that are working in Rise tend to also have a lot of mobile considerations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one thing you want to think about is, you know, what
Load.
works for you when you're working on your desktop may not work for the person who's on their smartphone, and they're going to wait, you
Right.
know, 2 hours for something to download. So that's
Mm-hmm.
just something to consider when you're
Right.
you know
So,
building
like an
anything for
actual
mobile.
video file, providing a link to where the video is housed would be better than to embed the video in the e-learning.
Well, it depends, you know, because they're still going to have to download it. But you know, there
Mm-hmm.
could be like maybe it's easier for them to access the video through YouTube than
Mm-hmm.
it is through through wherever it's stored on their LMS. Which you know, while we're talking, let me show you. Um, let me go back here. I'll show you the one I was working on the other day. It's kind of funny that I built this little Mars Curiosity rover demo, and I'll share that too here. And it's in the community, so there's a few things that are neat in here. Let's see here. I'll share that, and then Sandra can drop that in there. Um, I was playing around. This is Storyline block, so I was playing around in PowerPoint, and I built this little block here in Storyline, and then I inserted it into Rise, and then I was showing somebody, and they said, well, this is really cool. We should share that. And then I ended up having to build all this other content to share it. But here, this interaction right here is just built in Storyline. This actually, the 3D part of it is in PowerPoint. So when I click on this, right, so now I can leverage the interactive capabilities in Storyline that I couldn't do in Rise. So I could click and
Ooh.
learn about the parts of the thing,
Yeah.
click back. See all of the actual animation was built in PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
That's a trade secret. I'll share that in a blog post coming up here. But then I dropped that into Storyline and I made it interactive. So now I can go through and you can see all the interactive, the visited states and the triggers and everything work. Here's another one that I built today. Now this may or may not work because I think it's a Google Chrome. It's because Google built this. But if we preview, let's actually preview the entire course. This one is like, this is a website. So I inserted the website into Storyline as a web object. So it's a single slide, but it's a web object. So it pulls in that web page. And then the web page is inside of Rise using Storyline's web object. So it's a Storyline block, but if we skip it, so now if you have the Chrome browser, the interactive, the 3D part, as you can see on my side, is working. Right now, I don't know actually how to use this because I just saw this last night, so I added it this morning.
Wow.
But you've got, you can leverage different things in the internet and use those web object blocks and bring them into Rise, so you can kind of leverage that interactive element. Now it doesn't work. I think it only works in Chrome. But again, going back to video, so here's two ways. So here's a video, the pre-built block where I can. This is just I think this is just an inserted video, right? And then this is a video here that's inserted as a block. So it gives me. I could keep adding. So I can insert videos and just have a single video block, or I can insert a video as one of those custom blocks. So the video pre-built, which gives you just the video, or the video as a block, and I can keep adding additional content. So I got to watch the video and then ask questions or something. And then here's a YouTube video. So this is a good example, and it's kind of neat because again, the 3D works. It doesn't work on mobile devices, but if you want to leverage something available to you on the internet, you can insert that.
Wow.
So it's inserted that way. And then here's some, like, probably in the insurance industry, you might have a lot of resources you want to share.
Oh, yeah.
So these are just websites, and you can see it pulls in the metadata. So these are just kind of whatever images on the website, and then it pulls it in. So you have these resources, and you can see this. So I added a lot of different features in here, so you can see the different features in Rise. So this is a good example of some of the things you can do with Rise. This image gallery kind of went through. I didn't create any of the content. It's all from NASA, so just to let you know that.
So now, are you signed up to go to Mars in 2022?
Yeah, well, that's my plan.
That's great.
I don't think they take overweight old people.
Oh, so Suma's asking, why does it not work on mobile devices, the 3D effect?
I think it has to do with the device, because on your, I don't know, it didn't work on my iPhone, so because it's coming through YouTube. I think the browser supports that 3D camera, right? The 3D, because you have to, if you look at it now on here, it might look like it works because I'm actually previewing it in my Chrome browser, right?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so here it may work because I'm actually still on my Chrome browser, but when you look at it on your iPhone, you're going to see the stitched video. So you're going to see the 3D video, but it's like it's stretched out rather than stitched together. So you get the video, you just don't get the 3D, the moving around. And I just think that's an issue because it's mostly on the iPhone. It may work on an Android device that's using Chrome, but on the iPhone it wasn't working for me.
I gotcha. Yeah, because
so
I have
again, you'd have to test.
Right. I have 3D photos on my Samsung where you can move them around.
So you could test that. You can take that link and test it on your smartphone and see how that works.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's really cool about Rise compared to Storyline and all that is that it's easy to author, and because of the mobile responsive nature of it, it's great. The structuring of the content works really well, especially if you have a lot of mobile learners, sending people out, and again, you could put anything in here. It doesn't have to be a course. It could just be product information, right? So here's the product, here's key points. You're going to go talk to somebody. Let's do that. Or adjusters, right? Here, the 10 things you need to look at before you, I don't know what type of training you guys are doing, but if you have a mobile workforce, Rise is a really nice product to use.
Yeah. Wow. See, the thing that is really intriguing to me about Rise is the design aspect of it. And that's, for a lot of people, very hard if you don't have a design background, as far as like visual design, like spacing and fonts and all structure, that it's all like pre-built for you, right?
Right.
You probably had
that was the part that I think people really liked about the rapid authoring, because that is, and we see that today. I mean, that's probably one of when we do our workshops, the biggest challenge people have isn't creativity. We find we actually we do these scenario type deconstructions, and people have to come up with creative ideas. The course developers don't lack on that side of things, and they don't lack understanding how to use the tools. But probably the biggest challenge is that whole visual part. It's like, because that's in itself its own career, right? Being a good visual
and that's
designer.
The thing, it's changing over time. So if you look at websites, just as an example, as far as the design aspect 5 years ago and today, totally transformative. So now with 360, you guys are going to have design people that are constantly upgrading, keeping up with changes in design that you don't have to worry about, I hope.
Yeah, and that's really one of the cool things on the, let's look at this site demo on the content library side, right? Like, and again, what you can do in Rise right now with content libraries kind of limited. But let's say I come in here and I add, this is easy. I can add images, right? So I've got access to the content library stuff here, right? And there's other things. So you do have, like, if I'm looking for a laptop, image, all that's kind of right there in front of me, which years ago you didn't have. Now on the Storyline side, let's just open up Storyline, and this would be the same on the PowerPoint as well. And you don't need it, and you can just use it in PowerPoint. You don't have to use PowerPoint and publish it. But you go to Slides and we go to Content Library. You've got all sorts of, like, if we go to, let me click away from that,
templates.
You got hundreds of templates and designs. So you don't have to do the design work.
Right.
If you want an interaction, you've got different interactions. And then let's say I want to bring this process interaction in here. Everything's built for me, and so it really does speed up the production. And I can customize, or I can say, I'm going to bring in my company's brand color, so I'm going to change everything. You can customize it, but the interactivity, everything's already built.
Right.
And it's right there. Now I'll show you the last thing is, let's say I like this single slide, and I want to bring that into, let me turn this, get rid of this one, and I want to send this to Rise. All I have to do, now what I would do is turn off the player. So I actually have a pre-built player. So I turn off all the player functionality because I don't want to show this player, right? I actually created a completely transparent player in Storyline. So I'll have just the slide, hit OK. I'm going to turn off the buttons so they don't show up. Hit OK. I'm going to publish this, and when I publish, I just publish to 360 right here, and we'll call this site here. Publish. You'll see how fast this is. It's one slide, so it's really fast. But I mean, it's going to go up there. It goes up to 360. I'm going to close it. Let me come back to Rise, and let's cancel this here. Let's come into the course, and let's say I'm going to add a Storyline block. Come over here, and again, I can add content, right? So let's just say we added some heading and text, and then I want to check out this interaction, right? I want you to interact. So with Storyline, I get a lot more control over the type of interaction, right? So I'm going to click in here, browse 360. I'll find that site demo we just did.
Yeah, there it is.
And it's going to upload it. And because I turned off the player, I don't have it. Now I do have this block has a color to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the block. I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to make it pure white, which is FFFF, right? And now it's fully integrated. So if I preview this, I'm in my course, and there's my Storyline block.
Look at that.
Right? So I can.
Oh my God.
I've got a lot of flexibility, right? So that kind of, it gives you the best of both worlds. You get the easy, and I would say, like you were saying, you don't have all the graphics and the visual consideration. You got that easy production, but you still have the ability to customize and leverage, those interactions in Storyline, and the content that needs to be a little bit different, right? So sometimes you just have to, the pre-built stuff doesn't work for you, so you can leverage whatever you can do in Storyline.
Right. Oh my gosh, this was great stuff, Tom. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your talents with us. And I know I am totally inspired to take advantage of my 30-day free trial, and super easy to set up. And I've got to go build a course now. So
yeah, play around with it.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, you have that resource there that kind of gives you some of the basic information. But anybody, just my email is tom@articulate.com. So if you have any questions, or just e-learning in general, it doesn't have to be about Articulate tools. Don't hesitate to contact us. We have all sorts of resources, and we want to make sure to help you out. And if you're an Articulate customer, we want to make sure that you're using, getting the most value out of your tools. So
absolutely.
don't hesitate to contact us.
Yeah, the community's great, and then visit the Rapid eLearning blog as well. So that's one thing that I love about Articulate is the community and the blog. So if you want to get better at e-learning, that's great. All right. Thank you so much.